Any changes in the proposed budget?
I've got a couple check marks now, I don't know what. One of them I've got on judge's supplement. Are we paying 1,000 now or 2,000?
One.
Well, that needs to be back over to 1,000.
Yeah, that's correct. Jet to one?
Yep. And then I've got another one checked down there beside part-time.
Yeah. So we dropped that down to 10,000.
What was it before?
15.
I don't know why we did it, but I have it written.
It shows 2011 expended 10,640 on his part-time. 2012 was 10,000, and he's requesting 15,000. Drop it back down to 10.
That's what I had written.
He just put that he wanted 25 hours, so the part-time person to work 25 hours a week is the note I had in here.
Maybe I have to live with Dan. These public defender services, they've been automatically just raising them every year.
Pretty much.
It's a state, yeah.
Little.
It's required, it's kind of like probation. It's a state.
Can they determine what we pay, or do we determine that?
They, by the number
have
of
to,
years
state.
and cases, yeah.
So
When it comes to lawyers, you're pretty much at their mercy.
they kind
Unfortunately.
they CYA themselves.
Yes, that's right.
Superior Court.
So the two changes drop down was the deduction for the 1,000 and then the 10,000. Is that the only changes you wanted?
Superior
Circuit.
Circuit. Yes.
Did we change, are you on circuit or superior?
We went back to the circuit.
Oh.
Just want to make sure it has
The two
less-
changes
yeah,
are,
the two changes.
11106 down to 1,000, 11700 to 10,000. Right?
Right.
That's right.
And we're on Superior now. Any changes?
Was the only thing there, the changes with salaries, was that the only change?
Yes, 3%.
Probation Department.
I do have a notice, sorry, I stuck stuff in here as people gave it to me. Michelle Bennett's salary, which Bennett is 11207 for the 41,337. She has left the department and they have a new probation officer that will only be making 29,912.
29,912.
Must be,
Part-time person or?
Brand new person, they pay them by the,
Amount of
how do you say that, Paula, the states?
Yeah, it's
the
the,
different
Number of years.
number of years and different certification of the
So
different training that they take.
29,912.
912.
Okay, what about this officer two then, that's part-time or, I presume, went up 37%. Is that more hours
Yeah,
for
increase in
part-time or
hours.
additional hours?
Which one was that? What was the number?
11309.
309. I was just more an
I have to see
explanation than
that.
anything. Don't remember.
11309.
Sims.
Sims. She moved up to the assistant probation, is that right? She gets an increase in her salary because she's going, that doesn't make sense because she knew this before Michelle Bennett left.
Now remember that sometimes their schedules come out of more than one budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll leave it alone then.
Well, I'm not saying that that's what happened here.
Right, here's-
Just,
That's a heck of a schedule.
yeah, if she gets another 20,000 and out of adult user fees.
The one that's getting 29,912, you mean?
No, the one that's
Oh,
getting the
one's getting-
15,818.
Yeah. Yeah, but
So then that put her up with the 11,803, 35,818.
Yeah.
That she had before.
it also shows in there, it's got in there the minimum salary schedule for probation officers. And it shows years experience, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 through 9, and the different salary increases that the state has for mandates.
The other question I have here is the institutional care. I mean, are we comfortable with leaving that in there or not?
Well, we
I'm
probably
not.
don't have I don't know, we probably don't have a choice if somebody has to be moved somewhere.
Well,
No,
he's
I
not
mean,
saying
it,
this,
it was in the commissioner's budget, and it
Oh.
was moved over, Don moved it over to here. I mean, I wondered if we're
I
gonna leave,
don't know.
are we gonna leave it there, or we're gonna put it back in the commission?
and let me tell you why I'm not comfortable with it.
Okay.
Because I see in a lot of counties, the judges, they don't get along with the commissioners, blah, blah, blah. And then they have more authority over this budget than they would, obviously, the commissioner's budget. So we keep it in the commissioner's budget, we have little chance that it's gonna increase unnecessarily. And it's always been in the commissioner's budget.
Yeah, you know, in years past, this has always been in probation. It was state mandated. There's always that question of you shall pay or you may pay. That's always been a thing. Now that we don't discuss that anymore. Did that ever get resolved?
Shall
Or may?
is,
Shall you
has to be
have
for
to?
sure.
That's
and
a
may is
mandatory.
very-
But may is if you want to. Did that ever get resolved, do you know, Paula?
Well, there's,
Because they were always coming in with that piece of paperwork,
Yeah.
you know. Doug
So-
was.
We're in discussion about whether it should remain where it's at or move back into the commissioner's office. The general thoughts on it, we show of hands, whether to keep it as located or move it back to commissioners.
I'll tell you, it always worked well as when the commissioner, that last year we were alone. Put it back,
Put it back in
commissioner.
commissioners.
Yeah, put
Those,
it back.
those in
Put it
favor
back.
say,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
got that?
I didn't have it on my vote, I'm writing in my book, but I,
Okay. Anything else on the probation department?
Other than, does anybody actually know whether that ever got resolved in shall or may?
I don't know.
I would sure like to know.
Got what, Glenn?
Well, remember how it used to be Doug would come in here and they had a piece of paper from the state, I was thinking it said you may or, but it was never resolved about, we finally just gave up, I think.
we always
didn't we?
paid it.
We just finally gave up, I think. Now I'm just curious.
Okay.
I don't see where,
Well, I don't know.
health department.
I guess I have a question on 11700, part-time health department. I thought our part-time was $15 an hour.
Correct.
How did she get up to 1996?
Well, sometimes they're asked to use the schedule, but sometimes they go above the schedule, but they're to come here first. And years back, once they get that exception like follows through year to year for that employee. So she could have come to council 6 years ago to get that increase. Is that Mary Ann McCluskey?
Yeah,
Yeah, she could have
I
come.
think she did.
Yeah.
It kind of runs in my mind that we
so
did.
now she just keeps getting the
Right,
percentage
because
increase.
you get once you're over the level and you get permission from council, you're golden.
We
And
can
there's
make that
other
whatever
people,
we want then.
there's other people that are planning. You know, like planning department, some of the building inspectors, same thing, they're over that level.
What did we pay her last year per hour? I mean, we got 17 in here, do we have the same number, or was that, well, it's right here in front of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
And another thing, I think there's gonna be a point in time, no busier than what the economy is in certain areas, that I think Scott could really do that job.
No.
Especially if the commissioners would change their ordinance to make it where they only have to be inspected one time a year.
One time a
Yeah,
year,
if you're
which-
gonna do
which
that,
everybody-
if you're gonna put that on him, then you definitely need to do that, because he already does weights and measures.
I know.
Yeah, I
but
was gonna say,
he-
we already got it.
Yeah, I understand, but there's
Yeah.
times he's got a
Poor
lot of
guy.
time.
Yeah.
Half the
big
time
extra
he's
for that.
sitting
I
down
know.
there at
Well, we're
his
gonna make
chair.
this 16,000 then, same as last year?
One part-time?
Yeah.
Well, it's,
It was 16 last year.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
On,
Yeah.
11700, change it back to 16,000, same as last year.
Yeah,
I had a note in there about the county ordinance 3 times a year to check the, eating facility sites, but did you want that
I think the
changed?
commissioners talked like they was gonna lower that down to what the state requirement was.
I know, but I don't think they ever
Well,
pulled
and
it and
even
did
with the
it.
help with Dr. Hatcher, that was discussed, and she said that their board, the health board, was reviewing that, and where they were gonna,
recommendation
right,
to
they,
the
yeah.
commissioners.
Based on what the state did. didn't they
Right,
say?
lowering it down, so
Right.
that, because first of all, we're not, meeting that, we're not complying with our own rule.
Right, we're not visiting them 3
Mm-mm,
times,
no.
and that's the
Well, why
ordinance.
don't you make a note that they need to adopt something on that, that thing, that ordinance?
Yeah.
And I thought she said she was gonna try to make it compliant with the state, didn't she say?
And
And
that's
that was
one-
Dr. Hartson said,
That's one time a year, isn't it?
Yes.
or Dr. Hatcher, I mean.
Yeah.
So do you want me to mention that the state is obligated to us to 1 time a year? And then if she's allocated the 16,000, but doesn't need to work as many hours to try to get the 3 times, you'll see that.
Well, you
her
also need to make
decrease.
sure that the health department board, that's what they approved
Well,
also.
Jenny, that 16,000 must have computed into some kind of an hourly rate.
Well, I think it was based on how much Mary Ann McCluskey had to work to get
Previous
out
hours.
to the, right, to the
Previous hours,
locations to
that-
visit.
So when she puts 17 in here, or 16 or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna spend all that?
Right.
Oh, okay.
She's not paid bi-weekly, she's paid for the hours she actually worked.
Yeah, in 2011, they only spent 13,874 out of that line item.
Take it back
So
to
let's
15.
take it back to 16 then.
Get back to what?
Sure.
16.
Mhm.
Sure,
Yeah.
if they didn't stop spending it.
Do you know if all the boards, like for the health board, they all adopted that $75 per diem rate? I know one did not, which one was it?
Redevelopment didn't, we're still paying them $50. Maybe,
I know planning did.
um,
Drainage,
drainage went to 75.
health,
Health went to 75.
okay.
I think the sheriff and merit changed their.
Oh, yeah,
rate.
they didn't wanna do it. They're the ones that didn't wanna do it, okay.
Is there a council member sits on the health board?
Not, I'm aware of,
Has there ever been?
not that I've ever been aware of. That's kinda strange, and, yeah.
Wasn't Cormany, didn't Tom Cormany used to sit on that board?
I don't think.
Don't think so. I don't think
I don't think so. He was on the senior citizen.
Correct.
No, maybe that's what I'm
Correct.
thinking.
Any other changes to the health department?
So change the 17 to 16 and check with them on how many visits a year Mary Ann's gonna do, if that ordinance needs changed.
Yes.
Okay.
Clerk's office.
Seems like she was asking for
Man, I don't see any chicken
Got the
scratches.
notes on that.
Yeah. The only change I see is where they put the supplies back into their budget rather than.
Yeah, and I have a note there that says that they do the courthouse and the sheriff's mail.
Yes, they
So
do.
it's not just money for them.
Yeah, I don't have any.
The only change there was, Mary Frankel's wages out of that, and the incentive fee for the clerk for the incentive from the Title IV paid for part of the wages out of a different fund. But other than that, it wasn't any changes.
Let's go, next one up is the auditor.
Man, I got all
Sorry.
kinds of scratches.
Didn't
in.
You was asking for a full-time employee?
I was asking for a full-time employee and to reduce the part-time appropriation and to fund it with the subsidy of the ineligible homesteads, both for wages and benefits.
What line is that, Jenny?
It would be my
Part-time is 11700.
full-time would be the transfer 11603,
That'd be new.
right?
And you're taking the part-time out,
Yeah. if I-
2,500.
No, the 15,000 I had last year.
Oh, okay, excuse me. I just was one line over too far. So that needs to be voted on.
Yes. The general consensus on 11603, additional employee and removing the part-time. That where everybody sees it?
Yeah.
Those in favor of that, signify by your right hand. Those opposed?
So if I don't get that, then I want my part-time to go back up to
He's
50,000.
supposed?
Is that enough?
Huh? Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I am too.
It looks like I spent a little bit more than that last year, so.
Do you want it to be a little bit higher than 15, 16?
Yeah, and the person that I want is still in school, so we'll go with that unless she moves to the assessor's office.
Okay, I'm in favor of moving her part-time to 16.
16?
I like the 2,500 better.
Yeah.
But I'm
What you like is what you don't
16.
get.
And the additional supplies, like everybody else's budget.
Right.
We don't have to mention that every time.
Treasurer's office? Only changes I see is moving the supplies back.
Laurel was in and got a copy of this. She just wanted a copy of the budget to see what she was working with next year.
Next item up is recorder.
That one was pretty benign too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
According to my paperwork, it is.
Yeah, they even dropped her travel mileage down to 1,500.
She's gonna pay for it out of perpetuation fund.
Yeah, that's
so
right, that's right.
You guys don't do anything with that.
Next up is the surveyor engineer.
Okay, this one's gonna be hard because of that backhoe.
Yeah, I'm not sure which option had the one, if it was option 1 or 2, you had it. Oh, it
It's option
says-
2 without
Yeah,
backhoe.
without backhoe, so I really need to rip the other pages out.
So with backhoe comes out,
Yeah.
Right, option 1 with backhoe should come out since you guys voted that down.
And it looks like the computer sheet was,
I think it was without the backhoe.
so
The
these
salary's
first sheets,
wrong.
Jenny, that don't say anything on them, just says updated. I got some sheets that says updated, and I got one that says up computed.
And I think he just updated the one with the backhoe on it.
So the updated can come out too then.
Yes,
well, remember, one of those is drain maintenance. Make sure you pay attention to the,
Well, mine both says severe.
okay, because as you keep going,
106,
one's drain
surveyor.
maintenance.
drain, and that'll change, since you didn't
Yeah.
do the backhoe, the drain one will change too.
Option 2 without.
You say drain maintenance, we throw away the updated or keep it
Well, I think it's the only one.
on the drainage?
Yeah, but I know, oh, there's 2 that's been crossed out, but I know what to remove here. They're not gonna have,
part-time.
they're not gonna have the supervisor wages.
Right. Are the part-time, there's no wages at all with drain maintenance.
You know, that almost makes me wonder, like, on that drain maintenance, you do have costs related to monitoring those drains and everything. Just like how you have the assessment fund, the reassessment fund, you can pay part of the assessor out of the reassessment fund. How do we know that we can't pay part of his employees out of drain maintenance?
And we looked into that before, right, when I started as the auditor, and he says that you have to be like, okay, if he goes out to a ditch out by your house, call it Paula Drain, and he spends a half an hour there, then he goes over to the McGuire, the Jenny Drain over in Smith. You'd have a half hour there, it's not feasible to, then you'd have to go back and take that
Okay,
pay
Not a
out of,
different grade.
The bookkeeping part is what's difficult.
yeah, it's
Okay.
just not, if you're gonna spend like 2 or 3 weeks, like do the whole job and they're prepared, I think is what he was looking at, could justify.
Or you have a clerk that all they do is drain billing, but Kathy Finker, that's all she used to do, is work on the drains. I think that's changed now with some software, that type of thing, but her